Yay, everybody. Well, we're sitting in a different spot, or at least I am normally than on a Sunday morning. I'm up there. But today we have our Testimony Sunday Campus Edition, and my wife Carla and I are here together. And this morning we're starting off with our first testimony from Haley Bouch.
Hey, y'all.
So when you see that name, it's Bouch. Rhymes with?
Ouch.
Couch.
Yes, couch.
Okay.
Slouch. All the things.
All the others, ouch sounds. Okay, so Carla and I have known the Bouch family for quite a long time, and we were so excited when we found out that Haley was going to be coming to school here, and it's hard to believe it's already been 4 years. So her parents are pastors in New Jersey area, and her dad started off in campus ministry at Florida State University, so somewhere that I was at school for a little while. So Haley, why don't you share your testimony with everybody that's here this morning, and that's what we're going to be doing this morning.
Hey, y'all. My name is Haley Bouch. Like we said, I am a senior at Augusta University, and I have known God since all of my teenage years, and now into my early 20s. I realized my need for a Savior and repented and asked God to come into my life when I was 12 years old, and I thank God for that every single day. However, receiving the gift of salvation was only the beginning of the work that God has done in my life. So I moved from New Jersey to Augusta for college just over 3 years now, so I'm in my 4th year here. And pretty early on, I realized that it was going to be a much harder transition than I had expected. I had to move away from everything I was comfortable with, my family, my friends, my school, including the relationship I was in at the time. And so it didn't take long for me to feel lonely and lost, trying to navigate friendships, as well as this long-distance relationship that I was in that wasn't very God-honoring. I had a mentor tell me early on that I needed to break up with him, which I did not want to hear, obviously. But I knew this was true, and it was going to be very painful to do so because so much of my identity had become tied up in him and my security. And so when I did finally end things, I entered into a very depressive season in my life, which was unlike me, and I felt more alone than ever, and I didn't know where to turn with these feelings of worthlessness and insecurity, and I wanted to go back home to New Jersey and never come back to Augusta ever again. I decided it was not for me. But God had a very different plan. In the midst of my daily questioning of why God had me here in Augusta just to be less than thriving, there was a whisper in my heart that told me that I was not alone. And he had called me here to Augusta, but the why had been unclear until I entered into the presence of God. And he met me in the darkest season of my life, and he told me that he had never intended for me to do this journey here in Augusta on my own. My heart needed healing, and my soul needed to be refreshed so that I could begin to find my identity and my security in God once again. And to be completely honest, during the healing process, I was still fearful that I wasn't ever going to be secure or content again. But God, in his love and his patience for me, reminded me through his word of his promise to me in a passage in Psalm 112, which was something that I repeated to myself almost daily, saying, I will have no fear of bad news. My heart is steadfast, trusting in the Lord. My heart is secure. I will have no fear. And the miracle that I didn't think would ever happen did. And I began to find joy here in my life in Augusta because of the joy that I found daily in God. And as my relationship with God thrived, I began to see all the other aspects of my life thrive as well. I committed to being all in here at In Focus Church, serving with Kid Focus and attending all the different things that the church has to offer. And similarly with ENC, I began to pursue relationships intentionally outside of the week and really get to know the people in the communities around me. And God also answered a bunch of prayers of involvement for me at AU and gave me opportunities that I would have never been able to get on my own. And so I just want to tell you that if you trust God with the entirety of your life, he will never fail to show you that he is the best story writer there ever is. Philippians 1:6 says that I am certain that God, who began a good work in you, will continue his work until it is finally finished on the day when Jesus Christ returns. And that is so true. Through the death and resurrection of Jesus and the relationship we can now have with God, God will be certain to continue his work in and through you until Jesus finally returns. And praise God for that.
That's awesome.
That's great. I'm so grateful for you, Haley, and I'm tearing up now, just like I did in the last service.
You almost made me tear up.
I
like,
know.
oh, no.
I'm like, let me just look at Nikki, because I can see Nikki past you. But I mean, sincerely, God has done a great work in you, and he is continuing, obviously, to complete what he has started. And he is a reconciler. And having known you since you were a little tiny thing, it's just a joy to watch you and your countenance lift. And you're not just bright-eyed and big-smiled on the outside, but it's coming from a heart that is surrendered and been refined, by the Lord. So I know growing up in the church, I know your parents, they're precious to me as well. You knew that it would be right, to connect to ENC in a college ministry. But tell us how you got connected to ENC and what it's meant to you.
Yeah, so like we kind of mentioned earlier, my parents were campus missionaries at Florida State University for 10 years. And so when I wasn't at church, I was at home surrounded by all the college students that they would disciple and that would babysit me. So it's crazy to think that that's me now. But I knew about In Focus and ENC Augusta before choosing Augusta University. The first time I actually ever visited Augusta, I met with the campus missionary at the time, Allie, and she told me all about ENC. So I've been connected from the very beginning, and I was able to get involved in leadership almost right away in my second semester, my freshman year. So it's been a blessing to have this constant community. Though my story has been bumpy, this has been, ENC has always been there.
And things have changed, obviously, since you first got here to now. So just share a little bit about how ENC's changed.
Yes, I think that every semester, a part of ENC has been completely different. So I started my first semester freshman year, trying to get adjusted, make friends, completely new navigating the whole college thing. And then the second semester, I was able to start in leadership, but that's when COVID hit. So then my first time ever going through the one-to-one with someone was over Zoom. It was very strange. But I learned, and then when I came back to Augusta, we were here at the church, and that was such a special time for ENC to be able to meet here at the church. And it was really a time when God was pruning us, pruning the people who went to ENC, and preparing us for the harvest that he was going to have for us when we returned back on campus. And so we were able to go back to campus, and soon after there was a change in leadership where Mark now took over for ENC, leading our ENC Augusta. And over the past 2 semesters, it's just been crazy to see what God has done, how he's really gone above and beyond our expectations of reaching students. And being able to be the president now of ENC and getting to be involved on the administrative student organization side has also been really cool. So it's grown me, and God has continued to take me out of my comfort zone a bit each semester and grown me and stretched me, and I'm thankful to have been able to do it with ENC and the people I can now call family.
That's great. I think for everybody that's here, just to be able to know from, say, freshman year to now being the president of ENC, which is Every Nation Campus. If you didn't know that, that's our campus ministry out at Augusta University. And such a powerful thing that God's done in your life. And being parents of kids that have grown, some of them, not all of them yet, but, and then sending your kid from New Jersey to Georgia. I know Gabe and Jen were praying, and then I just told Gabe, I said, we are so excited that Haley's going to be down here in Augusta for 4 years. And then I just read in your notes that it's actually going to be longer than 4 years, so she's going to be here now.
Yay.
Yeah, so
You're
we're
stuck
excited.
with me.
That it's great for parents to be able to have that comfort to know that they have a place to be. And so we're so glad that you're here, love your testimony, and love what God's doing in your life. So we're going to turn our attention now to the screen to hear a testimony from another one of our students.
I first met Jesus, I first surrendered my life to Jesus when I was around 9 years old. I had grown up in the church, grown up learning about Jesus, learning about the gospel in my household, in the church, but I really surrendered my life when I was 9 years old. That was the first time I really fully understood the gospel, what it meant to be a Christian, what Jesus had done for me. and my job to respond to the gospel and what that meant. I think it was also the first time that I tangibly felt the Holy Spirit in a really real way. I just remember feeling this overwhelming sense that God wanted me to surrender to Him. I felt chills everywhere. I felt super emotional. And I just knew, like, I understood that I needed to give my life to the Lord in that moment. So I prayed with a couple of the leaders that were there with me at kids' church, and they walked me through understanding that process a little more. So I got saved at 9 years old right then. So God has taught me through my involvement with ENC in the church is really just the importance of community, the importance of what it means to be connected, because you can find yourself in communities in all different areas of your life, whether that's school. For me, it was dance, other friendships, extracurricular activities, work. But He really just showed me that, like, all those other communities will eventually fade away. Like, your seasons of life are going to change. You're going to grow through different activities, different hobbies, interests. So really the one thing that does stay the same, though, is God's community. And if you don't have that to lean on, you're going to find yourself in unstable communities that will just fade with time as you go through different seasons of your life. So I've definitely just seen the importance of being involved and invested in ENC and in the church. And that's really just carried me through all different seasons of my life and been the one constant thing that I've had through all the different seasons. ENC to me is like a family. I think, like, it is a place that I can go on Tuesdays, first of all, that I know I'm going to be accepted and loved and not judged, that I can feel welcome there. I have people that support me, and I also see it as just a place of growth, that I have people in my life that can challenge me, people in my life that are keeping me accountable, that I can stay on the right, I know I'm going to stay on the right track, because I know that no one's going to let me fall off of it. They're going to keep me accountable to what I say I'm going to do in my walk with the Lord. And yeah, like I said earlier, I just think community is the biggest thing. Like, it's just my one place that I know I will have people for life, whether or not people move away or go to different places or have different paths. But I know that we're all connected through our common ground of just our love for Jesus, and our love for God.
That's great, Lena. I think we'll keep Lena, keep her around. Great. This is Grace. Oh, we're so glad that you're here today. And yeah, woohoo! I love the energy that college students bring. I love what Lena was saying about community. And if not for community, I wouldn't have gotten to know you. And your testimony's been one that has been so encouraging to me personally. So will you share with our church your story?
So hi, my name is Grace O. I just started my 3rd year at Augusta, and I'm originally from Boone, North Carolina. So I am the proud younger daughter of my parents, who are South Korean immigrants as well as first-generation Christians. So I grew up in an amazing Christian household, and my parents were so supportive. And I prayed a prayer of salvation at a pretty young age, but my understanding of the gospel was quite limited. I found it really easy to accept that I was a sinner because I'd been taught, like, my entire life that everyone was a sinner, so of course I was a sinner. And my life before truly encountering Jesus was marked with a lot of insecurity and shame and a deep sense of isolation, as well as this constant desire of approval from others. Things really started to change for me my sophomore year of high school, when my dad, who has always been very healthy, suddenly suffered from 2 brain aneurysm ruptures and was whisked away to a hospital out of town. And I stayed home alone for 10 days while my mom and my dad were in the neurosurgery ICU. And doctors said 50% of the patients with my dad's case don't make it to the hospital alive, and the other 50% leave with some form of disability. And my dad left the hospital without a single disability, complete control over his body.
And they were here this morning.
They were here this morning, yes.
I got to meet them. They were so excited. Your mom and dad were so proud and excited of what God's doing in your life.
Yeah, so that was certainly just an amazing miracle that had God's hand written all over it. But more than my dad's miraculous recovery, what really touched me from that experience was the way that my parents responded to it. My dad was so unafraid of death and so confident in his relationship with God, and even told our family after everything happened, you know, like, while my family was, like, suffering, wondering if he was going to pass, he told us that if he had passed away, he was at peace knowing the one who would be watching over our family afterwards. And my mom responded with such faithfulness and a commitment to serve my dad and our family. So for the first time in my life, I had no choice but to face this reality that what I claimed to know my whole life was different than what my parents were truly living in. And the following year, I moved out of the house earlier than most kids, and I attended a public boarding school hours away from home. So I was far from home, but a lot closer to my sister, who was in college at the time. And the Lord really started to pursue me through her. She would bring me out to her campus ministry events and initiate difficult conversations with me. And it was in those moments that, for the first time in my life, I experienced true forgiveness from Jesus and true repentance. And, my life certainly hasn't been easy since then, and I've made a lot of mistakes and learned from them, but my life has been filled with true identity and security rather than insecurity and true freedom.
Wow, that's powerful. Thank God for older siblings and campus ministries, which is part of why we're doing this, is just to talk about the power of being able to reach students. We have the mantra of reach a student, reach a family, reach a nation, particularly when it comes to international students and or just the student in general as we reach our own nation. So why don't you tell everybody a little how you connected to Every Nation campus?
So my first year of college, I came in knowing that I wanted to get plugged into community, but it was really a lot more difficult than I thought to find a church home, and I got pretty discouraged and gave up pretty quickly. And then towards the end of my freshman year, I was on campus one day and Thomas handed me an ENC card, and I followed ENC on Instagram, didn't do anything about it for a few months, and then saw I was here over the summer. ENC was the only group doing summer connect groups. So I DM'd Olivia on Instagram, came out to one ENC summer connect group, and the rest is history.
That is awesome. So again, now just remember, when you have opportunity, it doesn't take some massive thing. This is an invite card, and God will use whatever we have and whatever we're willing to be obedient with to reach people. We just have to be able to go do it. And Thomas was out there, met Grace, and we're so glad that he did, and that you're here. So what was it like the first time you because Every Nation campus is connected to a church. It's not a parachurch ministry. It's a church-based campus ministry all over the nation, all over the world, really. And so what was it like the first time that you came to In Focus Church?
Yeah, so, call me cliche, but the first time I came to a connect group in this church, I just knew that this was going to be my home. I didn't realize how important it was for me to be surrounded by a multi-generational, multi-ethnic church until I had it in front of me. And words can't really describe how much it meant for me to walk into that room and see students my age. And it wasn't just one demographic, it was all sorts of people, a diverse group. And I remember our first discussion that night, just thinking it was so refreshing to have conversation with students where students weren't trying to just give the right answer. Students were genuinely sharing about their lives and what they were going through, and I just knew that this was a true community.
Wow.
I love that. I love the parts of your story that are about God's pursuit of you, whether for salvation or for community. I love that he drew you through the testimony of suffering, watching your parents and how they exhibited Christ's suffering in that. And I love that he placed you in family. That's what his word says. And here you have a wonderful family, and he's placed you in spiritual family as well. So share with everyone what you have going on here in the future, where you're going from here.
Yes, so I am in a combined program at Augusta, and so this is supposed to be my last year of undergrad, and I should be starting medical school at MCG next year, so I'll be here.
Yeah.
So I'll be here for another, at least 4 or 5 years.
We're so glad.
Yeah,
I'm so
we're
thankful.
excited. Being in a military town, plus being in a town where you have students, seeing people come and go so often is hard. And so when we hear about people like yourself, and then even Haley was I'm going to be here 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Yes, we love that. Share what you did the first service. I thought it was so powerful about Grace's name.
I'm really thankful that your parents named you Grace. I think that what we name our kids is powerful. It's not just what we like or what we saw on a mug or a T-shirt, but that when I met you, you carry grace with you. When first time I ever talked to you, I felt the peace of God as you very, 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 in an articulate way expressed your salvation, but also when your tears flowed. And I thought it was such a beautiful picture of God's grace in your life and how aptly named you are. So it's beautiful to me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's awesome. Again, we're so glad, Grace, that you're here, and love meeting your parents this morning. And I have to say, I said this at the first service, it's like when she told me that her parents were first-generation immigrants from Korea, and then I said, well, where do they live? They just like Boone, North Carolina. I was like, textually, I'm having lots of issues with this, like why? And but her parents both work for Samaritan's Purse, which explained that, and that's why they're there. But we're so glad that you're here, and thankful for your older sister, and hope to meet her as well soon. But let's turn our attention to the screen. We've got another
Thanks,
testimony
Grace.
to watch. Thank you, Grace.
When I was 17, I was starting senior year of high school, and this is during COVID, so I had to do school online. During this time, I really changed a lot the way I was, because I was already kind of a quiet person. I was to myself, but just being home that whole year and not being around people, it really got to me. It caused me to have anxieties and like be worried about a lot of things, because I didn't know a lot, and I was about to enter college, and I was just worried like what I'm gonna do. I didn't know what the point of my life was really. Later I graduated, and as I'm about to start my first year of college, I went out to eat lunch with our campus minister and my brother Thomas, and basically that day we ate, and they told me about Jesus and what he did for me when he died on the cross. It really showed me like what I'm supposed to be doing in life and who I am really. It changed my perspective on a lot of things, and I wasn't just immediately different, but later I started going to ENC, and I got involved with a community of people that are my age that believed in God, and that helped me along the way like figure out who I am, and it helped me change a lot to I think who God wants me to be. I'm really glad that I heard that, and that I feel like everyone needs to know this, because there are a lot of people that went through the same thing as me, that were alone, that were isolated during that time, and like people that don't really know what to do in their life. And I think that they need to know like who God is, because that'll help them to know like who they are. And I think that really showed me who I was. The past year of my life, I couldn't have seen what he did for me. Like I couldn't have seen myself being the way I am right now. Like I never knew who I wanted to be. I didn't know like what I wanted to do, but like just as I've been growing and changing, he's been revealing a lot to me. Like I definitely want to be more involved with my church and focus and continue like helping students to like know who God is on campus. And I really hope that whatever I do, I can continue to just use what he's given me, use my voice to, share what was shared with me and, change students' lives.
I'll say before I ask Thomas, I'll give him a minute to gather himself, but I know for
Chill,
those
Pastor
of you,
Brent, chill. You ain't have to.
I
You
know
have to do
that for those of you who are like maybe in front of us, and I was looking at Josiah, it's like he's just turned his whole body, because I'm not going to do a prayer line for cricks in your neck after the service, so I apologize ahead of time. But if you need to turn yourself or just, act like you're looking at us through the back of your eyes, that's fine. Your heads, back of your heads, not the back of your eyes. I don't know what that would be. Thomas, why don't you tell us what it feels like, or what it's like, or what it means to you to see your younger brother up there on the video?
It means the world. Honestly, like I said last service, like it really, some days I have words and some days I don't. Last service I had some words. I guess this time the words might be a little bit less. But all I can say is praise God. It is truthfully his grace and mercy that he's not only saved my life, changed the trajectory of my life, but he's done the same with my brother. And because of that, just like he said, we get to do what we do together. Everything that God is calling us to do, we don't just have to do it by ourselves. We can do it together as brothers. And I never take that for granted.
That's awesome. So, real quick, why don't you tell us how you got here? Like, how did you get reached, so to speak, on the campus?
All right, so I know you guys have been hearing a lot about Augusta University. That's where I was going. During the fall of 2019, that semester, who you guys will hear from later, Mark Maldonado, he's our campus missionary right now, but he's also my best friend. This relationship that we kind of began and that we kind of built since the fall of 2019, he was inviting me to ENC and all of that, and I was just like, yeah, I'll go one day, and never did. It took me a little minute. Then I finally got there, but this really started just because we had a class together at Augusta University. We had a basketball class, and so, if you got two guys.
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one, yeah. It was pretty hard, I ain't gonna lie. You got two guys in a basketball class together, you know what's gonna happen. People are gonna talk trash, but I'm the nice one. Like I said, Mark's the mean one, so he was talking more trash than I was.
He has a mic last. Careful.
My bad. But the gist of that is like, a lot of trash talking turned into real conversation. And from there, turned into us doing life together. And it turned into us going and sharing the gospel with students together. So
that's powerful. I remember the first time that Mark and Olivia as well, Mark's wife, came and said, hey, we've got a guy that we want to intern. We think we want him to intern. So we do summer interns here at times. A lot of our summer interns turned into having, full-time jobs here. And so they're like, they got this guy. I'm like, well, who is he? And like, Thomas. I'm like, I don't know Thomas. And who's Thomas? Well, we met him out on campus. And we're like, you just got to trust us. And so we are so glad that we trusted Mark and Olivia to have you be an intern. And then once you became an intern, then you moved into being on staff here, which was super exciting. But in the course of all of that, God started to redirect your life. So why don't you share a little bit about where you started and now where you are?
Yes, he has definitely. Redirect is a great word for that because, some days, your mind and your focus is set one way, but God has a different plan for you, and it ultimately ends up being the best thing for you. Up to this point now, sometime in 2021, I started to actually start seminary, right? So I was going to Augusta University, but now, being on staff and the time I've been able to spend with, you guys and many other people, it led me, want to do seminary. And I'm learning a lot of good stuff, taking Hebrew, taking Greek, stuff I never thought I would do, but I'm doing it. And not just doing it for me, but doing it because I feel like that's what God's called me to do. So, yes, he's definitely redirected my life, and which I know we'll get into a little bit after this, but he's definitely done so much that I'm so thankful for.
Well, you could jump into that now, just
Okay.
like you
All right.
were.
What's he done? Where are you
What's
going?
What-
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Okay. I got you.
There's no later. It's now.
Okay. It's now. All right. Bet. Well, as of right now, so like I said, with Mark being my best friend, him being our campus missionary, the leader of our campus ministry, and being best friends. So, we have conversations all the time. And up to this point, there's been countless times where he's just been like, man, so when you going to start taking campus ministry seriously? Like, meaning like, when you going to basically start doing what I'm doing, right? And I'm just like, I think the role I have right now is pretty decent. I don't want to do anything else. I don't feel called. I don't want to do it. And it's just like, again, so many times you just deny that call and you just brush it off until God really shows you what you need to be doing. And so now this semester, I felt that God wanted me to take the call to campus ministry more seriously, more than what I've been doing, and actually trying to become a campus missionary, meaning that I get to be sent out to the college campus to minister to students, and the same love that God has used to change my life, I get to share that with others, because that's the thing. I mean, God has just redirected my life, and I don't know where I would be without him. And the thing is, he didn't have to do what he did. He did all of the work to get me to sit where I am right now.
That's great.
Literally, lived a life of wanting to be apart from God, wanting no part of God. But like I say, I wanted no part of God, but God wanted every single part of me, right? And then that means what he's going to call me to do on the campus is going to share that love that he shared with me, because I can't be silent about it. When he's done something so good for you, you can't be silent. You have to talk about it. You have to talk about it. You have to live it out, and you have to share it. And that's what I'm going to do.
That's great. I know Carla's got a word that she wants to share, and but I want to take a moment to say, I really think there is a call as an evangelist on you and Mark both, but there's something powerful about what Thomas is saying. It's like, once you know what God's done in your life, you've got to share it. And I'm like, we all need to challenge ourselves to obey the Holy Spirit to do that. And I remember praying, and here's what I need you to see. It's like Mark reached Thomas, and then I remember Thomas telling us here around staff, like, I'm praying for my brother. I want my brother to get saved, and I want my brother. And we started praying for Joe, and then here's Joe, and he just saw his testimony. And then just about a month ago, I was walking around campus because I needed to go do something for an assignment, and part of it was just praying in evangelism. So Mark and Thomas and Joe met me at Christenberry Fieldhouse, and we walked around that and began to pray for the students. Then we drove over to Somerville and walked around there and began to pray for the students. And it was while we were at Somerville that I kind of lagged behind a little bit, and I looked up and I saw Mark, and then I saw Thomas, and then I saw Joe, and all of them were praying for the students at Augusta University. It was like God was just showing the generational, and they're the same generation, but the generational transfer of life change. And I got to tell y'all, I was undone at that moment, seeing what God had done, stuff we've been praying for decades. So I'm very proud of you, Thomas, and what you're doing.
Yeah, me too. We have been on mission together in Memphis, and we've been here on this property, talked about you ministering downtown. And where are those campuses located? Downtown. So in the first service, I had this picture, and I wanted to share it. I have a picture in my head that I feel like is from the Lord of you. And when swords strike or iron sharpens iron, sparks fly? Well, as you are relentless in your pursuit to share the gospel and to share your story, because as you said, you can't be silent. You're going to be, undignified in that sharing. As you strike with truth, and there will be a sharpening, but also those sparks as they fly. What I had a picture of was they're little embers that go out, and little fires are going to be set all around. And even at the end of the service, in God's providence, not just happenstance, as we sing together as a collective voice, those embers from your ministry in your life, as you are faithful to speak and do and strike, they're going to be fruitful in the kingdom of God for salvation and for deliverance and for hope in our city. It's glorious.
I appreciate that.
Well, Thomas, we are super excited. So glad we listened to Mark and Olivia. Just in case y'all know, we listen to people on staff around us, even people younger than us. Everybody on staff's younger than me, but have to listen to somebody. And we're glad we trusted them because they believed in what God was doing in your life. And now it's affected your brother, and I believe it's going to affect your entire family. I really do. And we're praying for that too. So thank you, Thomas. We love what God's doing in your life.
Thank you.
Let's turn your attention to the screen one last time.
I feel challenged by God for us to re-embrace our stewardship for the campuses of the world. This is not an option.
God has called us for such a time as this. He's called you to influence your roommates, your family, those in your campus. God is calling you.
How do we respond to the chaos and the brokenness that we see in the world? We preach the gospel on every campus, in every city, and every nation.
Your campus doesn't need any more influencers. What your campus needs is more servants.
When we say change the campus, change the world, when we say every nation, every campus, what does it take to raise up a generation of world changers?
Preach the word. There are dry bones waiting for us to open up our mouth. There are campuses waiting for us to open up our mouth. Preach the word.
Fighting.
Yeah. That video gets me so jacked up. I'm like, I actually am going. We get to go this year. They told all of us that we get to go, even though we're not campus students anymore. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that conference before we close out today. But this is Mark Maldonado.
Hey, everyone.
Married to his wife, Olivia, I think somewhere over here. But we are so excited for them. And Mark is our full-time campus missionary out to Augusta University. But even though it seems like he's been doing this forever, he's really only been doing it like not even a full year, at least full time. And not to mention COVID and everything else. But why don't you tell everybody how you got called into campus ministry?
Yeah, it was funny how that all happened. So I actually got called at an ENC conference. I was a junior in high school, newly saved, trying to figure this Jesus thing out. And I remember sitting there looking at this promotion video. I'm like, oh, I can't wait. I'll get there when I get there. But in my heart, I'm like, do I really want to go? Not really. My dad looked at me, he goes, you're going. And little did I know God was going to meet me exactly where I was at that conference where, my heart was just geared towards what he had for me at that conference. I got pushed into a dance circle, figured out, you don't just back up a dancer. You can't do that. That's against the dance circle rules.
And you love dancing.
I do love dancing, and I think I'm pretty good at it.
You are good at it.
I disagree, but go ahead.
To each be their own. Now, the way the conference is structured, you have a main session followed by a breakout session, and there happened to be a session on the call to ministry, specifically honing it down to campus ministry. And I remember sitting there, my heart was racing, I was breaking out in the sweats, and no, I'm not talking about that Eminem song, if you know, you know. But, I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, so I definitely felt this feeling before, but God, I don't really know if it's you, but I'm going to stand up because I feel like this is the right thing to do. And, I went up to the altar call where they were calling, just if you're feeling called to ministry, come up here, and I did. I went to the breakout session and everything, and then totally did nothing with it for 3 years. I was called for 3 years straight, every single ENC
Yeah, literally,
conference.
he'd go to ENC, answer the call to ministry, and come back and do nothing about it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Mark, eventually somebody's going to, hey, aren't you the guy that's been coming here the last 4 times? Don't you come up here anymore for prayer unless you actually go do what we're praying about.
Well, I did answer that calling after the 4th time.
That's great.
I forget third time's a charm. It's 4th time.
Yes.
I'm recreating it.
God is patient.
Yes. So, for 3 years, I was really ignoring the call over my life and really running from it. Here God had, this calling on a silver platter. I'm just like, man, I want a new calling, man. You got to work with me. But, I'm doing what God's called me to do, and it's such a great privilege. And shout out to my wife. I couldn't do it without her. Really, I stink at admin.
Yes.
But all in all, it's just such a privilege just to lead with my wife.
Yeah.
I don't do this by myself, and all these students here. We have rows and rows of just students here, just excited about what God's doing in their lives. But yeah.
Yeah, talk about that for a minute, if you would. Then, how things have changed since obviously you were a part of campus ministry, then you started being called into it, and now you're leading it. And what God's doing right now through campus ministry here in our city. Absolutely.
So last school year, we saw 18 students give their life to Jesus.
Amen.
Yes. 3 students were water baptized, and that doesn't include the 1 student that's getting water baptized today. So stick around if you want to see that, please. That would be awesome. But as well as that, the way we've been evangelizing on campus, so basically what we do is every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we're out on campus more than we ever have been before, just really bringing the gospel to the campus and really building relationally with these students, right? That's one of the key things. The first night, we mirror what the church does as far as what connect groups look like. And our first night of ENC, we had 14 new students come, and we're seeing a new student come every single week, which is nuts. But God's been doing an amazing work in our ministry. You've heard a lot of these students talk about, we feel like we're a family, right? We're a family of college students. It's in our mission statement. We love students, we love God, love students, and we build community. That's what we're about. And you guys get to see that. I'm sitting back here, like, first service, I was like, oh, man, I'm going to cry. Like, I can't hold this together. I saw Joe, and that was, like, the trigger for me. And because I have a relationship with a lot of these students, but, I discipled Joe and Thomas. And just now, even in the second service, I'm just like, oh, wow, this is really happening right now.
Yeah. God's powerful, and he's doing a great work. That's powerful.
I'm so encouraged by your faithfulness to evangelize. J.I. Packer wrote a book called, well, he's written a lot, we stand on his shoulders, but called Evangelism and the Sovereignty of God. And he talks about how the definition, if you will, of evangelism is to go and bring the love of God to the lost person with the love of God and the love of people on your heart. And then he says a few chapters later, woe to the one who does not take the time to build relationship before he ministers the truth of the gospel to that person. And I've seen you so faithfully evangelize, not only as you relationally build with those on campus, but I recall a time when I was leaving our conference in Orlando, and to get to the parking deck is like a jetway length of, corridor. And as I'm approaching the door, I'm like, is that Mark? What is he doing? And there you were with someone that you had, who was struggling because they were in a little domestic debate with their loved one. And there you were preaching the gospel to that man to bring him hope in the middle of pain. And in my mind, I'm like, of course Mark is evangelizing right now when we're all trying to get the cars packed, and he's doing the thing that he's called to. And it's your faithfulness and your humility. I see its reward. When I went to Memphis with you and Olivia, and I led y'all while y'all led the students, it was such an encouragement to my heart. Your diligence and your love for the students, your love for God, Olivia, and the students is bearing fruit. And I'm so grateful, and I'm so proud of you, Mark, and the humility that you display. And then there's fruit just all over your life as I really believe in your heart of hearts, you're wanting to see salvation come to students' life, and you're giving hope so they can give hope to their campus. And it's amazing. Proud of you.
Thank you.
Powerful. I want to just say, too, for everybody that as a church that is a part of Every Nation, but then these campus ministries are all over the world. Every Nation campus is a worldwide campus ministry. But as a church, we believe in church planting, campus ministry, and world missions. These are the ways that we are reaching the world. We have that mantra, reach a student, reach a family. And we see that. You're seeing that, and we're seeing that even in our own campus ministry. So, but the conference is a big part of that, and I'm going to just we'll land this plane today talking about that. That's where you answered the call to come in and go into ministry 4 times, and that's also where people answer the call of God on their life unto salvation. They respond to the gospel. And that's what Mark and the other students, leaders are out there doing. They're loving people, as Carla said, but they're also sharing the gospel. Yes. If we don't get to that, then we're missing it. And we have to do that. And I'm encouraging all of us. We're probably going to be doing a series on this really soon. There is way more evangelism to be done through us as a church than just our high schools and college campuses. It's not just their job, but we get to be a part of it, and it is our family. But just to real quickly share why it's so important, you think, for us to be able to get our students and then also to help students all over the nation actually get to a conference like this.
Yeah, so we haven't had a national conference in 10 years, like over 10 years.
Wow.
So this is a really, really big deal. I mean, we're dreaming big, and we're believing that God's going to bring like 1,700 students to come to this conference. And like I've been telling our students, I'm like, we're not taking vans this year. We're taking a bus.
Okay.
Have that mountain moving faith. Come on. So, I mean, I think it's so important because there's an element of it. Like, yes, we're coming as a family, but we're also coming together as think of it like a family reunion of like maybe family members you may have never met.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way it really feels. Because that hotel that we're staying at is going to be filled with just ENC students. Every Nation pastors and so on and so forth. But it's really important, right? Because typically the most ministering happens on the way there, right? That van ride there, or For us, it's going to be bus ride.
That's right. I want to ride the bus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bus ride.
Okay, yeah.
The bus ride there and then the bus ride back, right?
I don't want to ride the bus. So.
You don't want to ride the bus?
I want to ride the bus.
Okay.
But, I mean, I believe that, I mean, there's a familial aspect to this, but there's also like a component of it where you gather together as, I mean, the church body, you know, in this case it'd be nationally, but I mean, all these campus chapters coming together, worshiping God, fellowshipping together. I mean, hearing from amazing speakers. I mean, it's going to be an amazing time, and I believe that each and every one of the students that go will testify of God's goodness, right, as we're just super ecstatic for this one thing. I mean, I remember telling our students, like, you know, we have this awesome campus, national campus conference, you know, it's happening in Orlando. They were like, that was it. That was all I had to say. It was like, we're staying at a Disney resort. Yep, that was wraps. I mean, they were super excited.
Oh, good. I was like, is that good or bad? Depends on your age, maybe.
Well, I think it's great, and there are moments like this, and probably some of you could testify to these moments in your life where God intersected where you were at, and he brought you to a place. Maybe it was a conference, maybe it was a camp, maybe it was a church service, maybe it was just somebody reaching out to you like you all are doing to students on campus and just befriending you. And whatever it is, God is going to continue to use you all and use this church to do that. And so one of the things we want to do before we end today is we want to be able to give towards that. And now, if you've already given and you can't do anymore, please don't feel, this is a no pressure thing. We just want to be a generous church. And every person that goes, every student that goes to this is paying $99, but it costs way more than $99. This is for their hotel room for 3 nights, the conference for 3 days, everything. And every nation as a ministry nationally is covering the difference between the $99 we're charging the students and really what it costs. But they have also asked all of our Every Nation churches if we would help by just giving something. And I told them that we would, because we care about students, we care about the lost, and we care about the college campus. We want to reach the campus so that we can reach the world. That's part of it. And so it's one of the few places that the world comes to the campus. And then they also many times go back. So I want to have Mark pray for that, but here's how you can help. Like I said, this is a no pressure thing. Don't feel like you have to, but I do want you to listen to the Lord. Say, well, how much do we give? And it's like, it doesn't really matter. We pledged to give over at least $2,000 from our church because they were asking every church in the nation to do something. And so I want to at least cover that. If we could do more, that would be wonderful, and I think we can. But you'll see this. It's text to give. It's real simple. Or if you use any other giving platform and it says ENC, or if you mark ENC. So if we could put that number up there on the screen, there you go. ENC, you have to put the dollar sign and then 200,000. Or if that will make your bank account too low, then you could just go ENC, dollar amount, 20, or whatever it is. But like I said, or 99. But that's how much it costs for a student to go. And there are some students that can't even cover that. And we don't want money to be a reason any student doesn't get to go and be a part of this. Maybe receive the call of God on their life like Mark did, or give their life to Jesus, so come back here and we get to baptize them in the courtyard, whatever it is. But I want us just to pray along with Mark, and we can also, before that, just give God a hand for what he's doing in Mark and Olivia's life and what he's doing on the campus. So, Mark, would you lead us in a time of prayer for this as we just prepare our hearts to end today?
Absolutely. So, God, first and foremost, I just want to thank you for all that you've done, all that you're doing, and all that you're going to do just through this campus ministry, Lord, that your hand is over each and every student that attends. God, I just pray that really today would just exemplify just your glory, really. I mean, this had nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with who you are, God, your faithfulness, and just who you are, Lord. That every testimony that was shared really just showed your hand in these students' lives, Lord. So I just pray that we would just, as a church, have a posture of just generosity as we talk about this giving, that it's not just, oh man, this is something else I have to give to, but man, what a privilege it is just to invest in the next generation. So Lord, just thank you for everything that you're doing. In Jesus' name I pray.
Let's just stand to our feet, and I want to just kind of lead us into this last song from right here in the middle. Y'all can step down. I guess I'll come to camera one. It says in Matthew 5:14, you are the light of the world, a city on a hill that cannot be hidden, nor does light a lamp and put it under a basket. Nobody does that, but they put it on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. And my prayer for us is that we would see this light, whether it's the light of one life, one student, and that it continues to burn brighter and brighter and brighter as it moves into and throughout the campuses here that God's called us to reach, whether it's Augusta University, Health Science, Payne College, and that we would see students' lives changed and the world would then be changed because of that around us. So let's sing and let's worship to Jesus this morning as we sing about it.